Hello, my name's Brian, and I've come here from the canal. I've been in Wolverhampton today, and I'm wondering what's going on because I saw this shed by the canal, and it looked like there was a light on inside it, and I wanted to find out what's going on. So, who are you?
Hi Brian, I'm Steve Lee. I'm a scientist from the University of Cambridge.
And what you doing in this shed here?
Well, together with my friend and colleague Dr. Nick Evans, we have a little chat about science.
Why are you doing that then?
Well, we think it's interesting and hope other people will think the same.
Well, that sounds absolutely busting. Can I listen in for the rest of this today?
You can. You get one every 2 weeks, but you can enjoy this one right now.
Wicked, can't wait, mate.
Science Shed! We're in the Science Shed! Science Shed! We're in the Science Shed! Come on, Steve.
Bunsen,
Burner!
Dolly,
Machine!
internal.
Combustion!
Why do we need
Steam!
Petri,
Dishes!
Oscar,
Base!
Isaac,
Newton!
transplanting?
Science!
So what have you been up to, Steve? How you doing?
I'm all right.
How's the lab?
It's doing well. Yeah, I'm trying to finish our paper, Nick.
Oh, yeah,
We're very close to submitting the paper,
We should come back to that a bit later.
which is podcast 3, I think, or 5.
2, I think.
Okay, we actually
I
spoke
think it
about.
was podcast 2.
Yeah, so episode 2, people should go back and listen to it. But we spoke about about a paper that Nick and I began working on 7 years ago now, because it was 6 years ago, but now it's 7 years ago because we just clicked over.
It's great, isn't it?
But we're really ready to submit it, aren't we, Nick?
Oh, I think so. I'm waiting for you. I think it falls in your court.
It totally is my fault. I've been a bit like.
Steve's pretty busy, though. I found out today, quite outrageously, because Steve had some problems getting down here to do the podcast, so he's about 2 hours later than he said he would be, primarily due to Southwest Rail.
Yeah. But I'm here, though.
He's here in the end. But I was trying to get Steve. Well, I was saying to Steve, well, why don't you just stay over? I'm cooking a roast. I've bought a joint of beef. We can have a bottle of wine. We can have some fun. And Steve says, no, he's got to go back tonight. It's very boring because he's holding a lab meeting with his lab members at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So Steve is officially one of the insane PIs that So I feel like I don't know him anymore.
Right. Well, I don't do it very often, but it's the only time I've got, so I have to do it.
That's
you?
what those
Science
insane.
never-
That's what those insane PIs say. They say, "Oh, I can't possibly do it another time. I've got no time to hold it again a sensible time. I've got 2 words to say to you, Steve.
Yeah.
Athena Swan.
Yeah, I know. Don't tell anyone. Actually, we shouldn't put this out because I'll get in trouble. I got in trouble the other day because I organised some of the seminars for the department. So for those of you who don't know, quite often you have people that kind of come and give a talk from a different university doing a different bit of research. And we have ours at 4:00 on a Tuesday, and we always have that. So someone comes and gives a talk about the research, and then we have a little Q&A. And I got in trouble because it finishes at 5, and apparently that's too late for Athena Swan.
Just for people, so people listening to this may not know what Athena Swan is. So,
Right.
essentially, the universities have been. The idea is to encourage universities to be more inclusive to people who have
Indeed.
maybe families and a life,
normal
people. So the idea is that for women and men who have childcare issues, you shouldn't do things like hold a meeting at 7 a.m. on a Monday because it's totally impractical for most people's lives.
Yeah.
And meetings shouldn't start till sort of after 9:30, and they should be sort of wrapped up by 4:30. So there's kind of core hours. So it's all a sort of inclusive way of working. And the
Which
university.
I wholeheartily support, by the way.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So the
Before
university,
you go on and trash me.
by holding a meeting at 7 a.m, of course he's supporting. Anyway, so they basically the universities can get star ratings, or they get bronze, silver, gold. It's actually faculty based, so it's like within universities.
Yeah.
So by doing things like having sort of career workshops,
We have silver in the chemistry department.
We've got silver in medicine in
But
Southampton.
I think
as
bronze,
well.
basically, you just have to fill in the form. It's pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
everyone starts off on bronze. I don't actually know anyone who's got gold.
No.
Anyway, so silver means you're doing it. So you're being and like it enables. You might have workshops about work-life balance.
Yeah.
You're kind of making an effort
Yeah.
to acknowledge that people have lives and careers, and they need.
What are you trying to say, Nick? What are you trying to say? Yeah, I know I shouldn't do it.
It's often not compatible though with the rigours of an academic career because it's really hard out there, and you've got to work really hard.
It is
to
a little
get
bit
ahead.
difficult, isn't it? Because because there's all these kind of expectations in labs of like when people should be working and how they should be working and what they should be doing, and it's difficult because obviously you want to support that and you think that it makes sense that that you work in reasonable times, that you have holidays and all this kind of normal things, but generally you find that people that work more generally succeed more. Yeah. so on one hand you're telling people take time off, but then if you look at actually the people that are successful in academia, they don't. Right, so it's a bit of a mixed bag. At least your kind of crazy PI people, at least they're honest. At least they're like, yeah, of course I work all the time. What else am I going to be doing? Like, no one else is going to do it, you know.
Have you ever had a lab meeting on a Saturday morning?
No, but I've really thought about it.
See, I would never even think about doing a lab meeting on a Saturday morning.
When we were in Stanford, there is a academic in the chemistry department in Stanford who will definitely remain nameless for this.
I think I know who it is,
but he used to.
There's many of them. It's not just one or two.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
It's
I've
very
heard
common.
plenty of stories. There's a friend of mine who's come back to work in the UK. He was working with quite a well-known guy in the field of regenerative medicine. And always lab meetings were at the crack of dawn on the Saturday morning.
He didn't come into the lab on a Saturday, this particular person, but he would expect everyone to be in the lab on a Saturday. And at some point during that Saturday, he would ring the lab and then he would ask for the phone to be passed round one at a time to each of the members to prove that they were there.
Can you imagine this happening in any other? It's totally insane.
Yeah, but all that happened is everyone like went out and had a few beers on Friday, and they came in hungover, and they just sat there and watched like Netflix or whatever or YouTube, and just until this particular PI rang, and then they like, all right, boss.
You can probably like get around that these days. You can patch them through on Skype, or there'll be some way of getting around it. Do you know what I mean?
Or you could just record everyone's voice.
Yeah. Hello. Like Ferris Bueller's Day Off with the stereo and the snoring man. Maybe that's what you'd do. You'd engineer like a body. It'd be like a dummy sort of crouched over a bench, like with a lab coat draped over it, and there'd be a piece of string going to the door. It'd be slowly sort of stumbling backwards and forwards, like pipetting something. Yeah.
Anyway. Right, should we get on to talk about some science?
I thought this is science.
Oh, okay.
I'm enjoying talking about it.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway, so you're going to be heading back.
Yeah, I'm going to be heading
early
back
tonight. And can I convince you otherwise?
No, you can't.
Why don't you have a Skype meeting? You could do it remotely.
can't, Nick.
We've got the internet.
Look, stop it. No, I've seen how long it takes to make a podcast with you. Your internet's crap. It takes like 25 minutes to upload a pic.
To be fair, it's slow on the upload, but it's reasonably quick on the other stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully, let's concentrate on making the best podcast we can make in the short time we have.
Oh, Steve, I've had an interesting experience this week.
Ooh, experience.
Yeah, it was one of the most entertaining things that's ever happened to me in my working life.
You mean like professionally or just
in my
total?
working life?
Just in your working life, okay.
It was up there as well with like it was
so
almost
not
like
Nick down the pub, Nick. You mean like Dr. Nick Evans, associate professor at Southampton University?
No, across my whole professional
right,
life.
Okay.
And actually, I would have happily. I imagine
it's like the audio equivalent of clickbait. You'll never guess what happens next.
we should talk about it next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so I felt like I should have paid money, but So to start at the beginning, I'm a member of this group called FortisNet at Southampton.
Yeah.
So this group, it's kind of like it's basically research and company. It tries to get academics and researchers and other what we call stakeholders, people with an interest, in a field of research together to try and interact, to apply for grants or to start new collaborations.
These are like industry people as well as
industry and all kinds of different people there. So the people that I work with from the Ministry of Defence as well and things like that.
Right.
So they all come together, and it's the central theme is it's kind of orthopedics and orthotics and prosthetics.
Yeah.
So either devices that might be implanted in the body to improve joint function, so it's like skeletons basically, like artificial knees and hips, think that sort of thing. But also orthotics, so things that might be worn outside the body to improve body function, or all the way from wheelchairs to artificial.
So probably
legs.
Quite a diverse set of people then.
It's a really diverse set of people, and actually really top people, and it's quite an exciting group people to have in a room. I mean, you've got people all the way from biologists, people doing stem cell stuff, all the way through to, you know, people who make wheelchairs.
Right.
So it's quite interesting. But it's the second meeting that they've had, and it was a bit of a coup this year because they managed to get in Supervet.
I don't know who that is.
So Supervet is a guy called Noel Fitzpatrick.
Right.
He's a vet.
He's presumably a TV show. Is this?
He's a TV show.
Yeah.
It's called The Supervet. It was initially called The Bionic Vet. It was on the BBC, and it's been running on Channel 4 for about 6 or 7 years. So if you watched Channel 4, you might see it's like a
TV,
it's like a fly on the wall in a veterinary
I'm
practice.
too busy having meetings at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, so Supervet's there. That's exciting.
Supervet's there.
Were you a bit starstruck?
No, because I don't watch Supervet either. So, but I know of him,
Right.
and I've seen clips, and I'm aware of who he is and everything. So I didn't really know what to expect. So you've got to imagine this meeting.
Yeah.
It's quite a dry academic meeting. People
Been
are
in many
giving
of those.
Yeah.
Know how that works. Yeah.
People are giving talks about who they are and what
Right.
their research is, and
Yeah.
generally it's graphs. And
Lots of probably like slightly greying men wearing shirts and jeans, like tucked in.
there
is
was
that-
some of that
yeah.
going on, but there's also quite a lot of sooty type people because it's an industry thing.
Of course, they
remember?
do
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
So there was a lot of those sorts of people, all very nice. It was a really nice day in general.
Come on, Nick. What happened?
So basically, Noel Fitzpatrick's there. So people listening to this podcast may have heard of him. So he's a vet. Just to give you a bit of background about what he does, he runs a practice, veterinary referrals unit in
Okay.
Surrey, and they do orthopedic surgery generally on
Right.
animals. So if an animal has
Breaks
cancer in its
its leg or
bone,
whatever.
breaks its leg, gets squashed,
Yeah.
he kind of basically rebuilds your
You
dog.
can tell this is a great
He
TV show. So
rebuilds
do they play
his dog.
Sigur Rós a lot? Like
What?
Sigur Rós, you know,
I don't get it.
That song that was on everything when the dog finally gets better and has this little.
Oh yeah, very emotional
Yeah, I
post
bet,
rock
yeah,
kind of thing. I
exactly.
see what you mean. Anyway, so he's been doing this for quite a number of years and it's been quite successful. And he's been on TV. So often what happens is he fits these ridiculous orthotic or prosthetic devices to dogs, like a new leg.
Yeah.
They've got like an artificial leg. These dogs
Right.
are running around.
And then Rover comes in and the family are happy again.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
got it.
Cures the animals. So he does all this type of stuff. So he came along, and our current VC is a guy called Sir Christopher Snowdon, who used to be the Vice Chancellor at Surrey University, University of Surrey in Guildford. And he was the VC, I think, at Surrey when this guy, Noel Fitzpatrick, set up a vet practice there.
In Guildford.
So he established not a vet practice, a veterinary school.
So they've known each other.
They know
There's
each other.
history. There's
So
bad
I think
blood.
no, there's no bad blood.
Okay.
They love each other.
Okay.
He kept saying what a great man. I'll come to this in a minute.
Yeah.
But basically, it was a bit of a coup to get him, and he
Right.
came along and gave this 2 talks.
Yeah. Were they good?
Oh my god! Right.
They blow them out the water.
just so I was setting the scene a minute
Was
ago.
it like a TED talk?
It was like nothing I've seen. It was a TED talk.
Okay, so the person that's just finished has just come up and done like a really boring PowerPoint.
They've done a really boring
All of the slides don't work and they don't match.
No,
and the fonts
this
are
is
different.
part of it. They did two talks. One about very practical talks about prostheses,
Yeah.
prosthetic devices. Another one on being a prosthetist, they're fitting them and things like
Okay.
that. And in comes the Supervet.
Like bam! It's time for the big guns.
He looks dishevelled.
The Supervet does.
The Supervet he's badly
Right.
shaven. He's wearing sort of black shirt, black jeans.
Not ironed.
He's totally dishevelled. Hasn't
Right.
been.
Okay. Looks a bit like you.
Just
that
comes
what
in
you're saying?
and he's like, "Hello, guys! Hello, everybody! Hey!" He starts shouting and gesticulating,
Yeah.
right? And he starts giving this what must be a talk that he's done a few times before. But he's a consummate showman and also extremely controversial and happy to be controversial.
And he's been relatively successful in being that
Hugely
way.
successful.
Right.
So first of all, he tells he hasn't slept for 3 days. That's his opening
his
gambit, and he shows a picture of himself lying down in a lecture room in the University of Bradford, where he slept for 2 hours before giving a presentation there the previous day before he came to Southampton, not having slept again.
Yeah.
He's walking around. So I was sitting at the front, just
Yeah.
randomly. I happened to be sitting in the front. He would walk past me, sort of knock me out the way, walk down the middle of the room. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was so fantastic.
Yeah.
But he did present a lot of stuff. He had opinions about things. Really, really, really strong opinions.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, he's built his career on putting these prosthetic devices into dogs and innovating. So he's very keen to stress that he's been innovating, and he's designed a lot of these things himself.
Right.
You know, and his real mantra is these can help people.
Oh, right. So he wants to actually transition them from fixing Fido's leg to fixing people's legs. Is that his
Exactly.
idea? Okay.
And
That's quite a noble thing to do.
It is, and I actually agree. I mean, it was fantastic,
Right.
Steve. You've got
I
no
bet you were
idea.
loving it. Were you all
But
little...
he was saying things. You know, he was. There's all these orthopedic surgeons,
Right.
so you know, high profile surgeons in the
proper
room.
grown-ups. Yeah.
You know, and he was saying things like, 6 years ago, 6 million people didn't know what I do. Now they do because I'm on telly. Nobody will know what you guys do because you're not on the telly.
That's harsh,
And
but probably true.
He was picking people out of the room as well. Surgeons say, you
Case
Ruth."
studies.
He was saying things like, "Oh, I can't." He was basically saying, "Are you getting jealous? I put a orthopedic blah, 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 talk about this highly complex bit of surgery, and I put it in a dog. Look at the dog. He clicks the button. The dog's walking around, jumping up a wall. Are you jealous? Are you jealous now?" All this like highly controversial.
Wow.
And he was
Click
bitter.
here to know more.
He was kind of bitter because he'd been wanting. So his central concept, which I liked,
Yeah.
he wants to try and test more things on animals through veterinary practice.
Okay.
So at the moment, a lot of what's tested is done on laboratory animals.
Uh-huh.
So this is a serious point. So you get like a lab animal and you make it ill,
Yeah.
or you give it an injury, and then you try and introduce your
Well,
technique.
he was saying you take things that are already ill, and so you're not...
Absolutely.
so
So
you're
he
not
was-
taking healthy animals and...
He was saying that rather than do that, you've got cohorts of dogs in vet practices, and you could look at, 100 dogs that had osteosarcoma, so that's cancer of the bone. When they lose a load of bone, they've got to have a leg chopped off. You could try it on them, and then you could sort of show the data in that manner.
Seems reasonable.
It's reasonable, and he was basically bitching that there was no interact because he's a vet. No one gives a shit about what he says.
I mean, in the academic
and he showed
community.
a picture of what they thought about what he was, and it was just he was lying on some hay with his hands stuck up the cow's arse, basically. So he's saying, "This is what you guys think of me. You don't engage." And
Right,
all
so
this type of
he's
stuff.
really giving people...
Really confrontational.
Amazing.
Totally confrontational. And
Were you
one of-
loving it? Were you like... Was
I
it one
was-
of those things?
I
that-
was
were you
felt-
in the moment? You're like, this is happening now. This is I'm experiencing
I wouldn't say that I was loving it. I was kind of feeling sort of embarrassed and exposed.
like you wanted to
'cause
get
I
up
was
and
right for-
just put in one of those like
Well, I wasn't
survival
sure whether
blankets.
because I was making notes. Like I wrote down a few of his quotes, and I was
Yeah.
half the time thinking he's suddenly going to grab my book off me and say, "What are you doing? What are you writing here?" Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but he was
Wow.
very, very inspiring. I mean, just an example of some of the things he said. He was talking about the people that he works with in his practice. So this is another thing. You'd get on with him. He's a workaholic, works
Really?
16-hour days,
Good.
and has no
Good
life.
effort. Good effort.
He
Yeah.
sleeps
Are
in
you
the lab.
jealous?
He's got a bed in the lab. Yeah. And like he makes. So I've heard from someone else because he's interacted with the orthopedic community
Right.
to do research. He publishes a lot of papers. He does things like he'll have a surgery planned for 8 a.m. the next morning, right? So you're ready to go in at 8 a.m. in the morning. He's manic the night before. He'll phone people up at 2 or 3 a.m. and get everyone in to do the surgery because he wants to do it at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Because
everyone
he's
has to
like
come in.
excited about it.
Yeah, and I'll come back to this in a minute. But
That's
someone
awesome.
else I know, his thinking about working there, and I think the general consensus is that if you go and work for him,
You have to
it's
do his shit.
expected.
It's his way
that
or the
you-
highway. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got hundreds of applicants. That's what he says. Anyway, and he says things like, I want to be surrounded by beautiful gold nuggets that permeate the light of hope into the world.
You can put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Does a 13-year-old kid watch All Creatures Great and Small? Or do they watch Supervet? You tell me. They watch Supervet. I'm on the telly. A friend of mine counted how many times he said,
said,
I'm on the telly. It was 8 times.
Why is he super? Other than the fact that, is there anything? He's just a vet. Like, is there anything other than the fact he works 16 hours a day?
He is. I totally...
He's like a really good vet.
I don't know whether he's a good standard vet, but he's a referrer. He does his specialist.
Right.
And he's innovative, and he does things that nobody else has done. Like, he's pioneered the use of ITAP. So this is a technique where if someone loses a leg,
Yep.
often what happens is you have a prosthetic leg.
Yeah.
So you've got your stump.
Yep.
So your leg ends in the stump, and then you have a socket, and the thing goes in there. And that's really problematic in many cases because you get sores and things. It's uncomfortable. The skin deteriorates because of the load. There's a lot of stress on it that soft tissue is not designed to hold.
Yeah.
So there's a technique using osseointegration which actually you use in your teeth.
Right.
When you have an implant in your teeth, they put a piece of metal into the
the
bone in
jaw.
your mandible or your maxilla,
Yeah.
the two bones in your jaw, and that sticks out the skin, and you can screw on a tooth.
Yeah.
All right. So they've tried to do the same thing in bones.
I've seen this. Yeah. So sometimes I was on an airplane actually the other day, and there was a guy there that had a that was missing a leg, and he had that. So he has like a little kind of metal peg sticking out the end of his stump, and I was kind of talking to him about it, and he was just saying he had that it was a kind of relatively new addition. Apparently he just had that, and it was actually much better. So I think it does work, right? With people.
They're much. I mean, they're for people who've had amputation. I think the consensus is that for comfort and for movement, they're much far superior because you've got a direct mechanical interface with your own skeleton.
With the bone, yeah.
Yeah, and you basically the metal sticks out as you were saying, and you can screw on different sorts of
upgrades.
Yeah,
Superhumans.
So a foot, a blade, tin opener maybe.
Tin opener.
Screw on whatever you
Record
want.
player.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's pioneered that in dogs and cats and things.
Okay.
So there's cats with these things sticking out the end of the bone with an implant on.
Yeah.
And there are clinical trials underway to look at them. The main problem with them is because it's sticking out through the skin, the tissue is open.
Right.
It's like what's called a stoma, or an opening of the
So
tissue.
it's like you've got a wound basically.
So a lot of them get infected. So that is the challenge.
Yeah.
There is a group.
So what does Supervet think? I bet
Supervet loves them. He thinks they're the best. This was the other thing. Somebody else had just given a talk on prostheses.
Right.
And he was, they were in the past. Prostheses, stump fitting is in the past. So it was a little
You've got to
bit...
get with the times. Shape up or ship out.
But basically...
I like this. I like the cut of this guy's jib.
He was, but he's also, I felt, a little bit, he was too sure of himself.
But you can see how he's been selected to be that way, right? Because basically he shouts a lot, and then he goes to Channel 4 and they say, we love this guy. He's really good on camera and he shouts a lot and seems to know what he wants to do. Let's give him a load of money. And then he gets successful for shouting a lot, and then it's a kind of big positive feedback loop.
I think so, but I think he's quite successful, and a lot of people go to see him. He's got no family. He says all of his money is going to be given to this thing called the Human Animal Trust,
right?
Which is this organisation. She's trying to build in reciprocal something or other. He had a word for it, reciprocity, which is the idea that you can build new human medical treatments by working with vets, basically.
Well, that seems fantastic. Like a reasonable idea.
It was, yeah. So highly entertaining, totally overawing. I haven't even got to the best bit.
Okay.
So the thing at the end. So one of my colleagues.
So this is big closer.
So one of my colleagues, Cameron, who I know very well, sits next to me at work.
All right.
He said it's okay to talk about it, but basically he wants to be an intern in Knoll. He's a vet, so he does work at the moment.
He wants a piece of the pie. He wants to get under the Supervet.
He wants to be involved.
Wing.
Yeah.
He wants to be.
He wants to learn from the
from
team.
the best.
Well, no, they are doing stuff which no one else is doing. So he'd come to the day to meet him at the end.
Right.
To sort of, he says, "Where's Cameron?" And then he spots Cameron was in the next room watching, and he spots him. So he says, "Cameron, come up here." Gets a chair. So he walks to the back of the room, picks a chair up, carries it over everyone's heads, puts it at the front of the room, right in front of where I was sitting.
Right.
Sits Cameron down and gives him an ad hoc interview
In front of everyone.
Just ask him, "What do you want? What do you want?" So he says,
well, that's not very intimidating, is it? That seems totally
he answers
relaxed.
Like 2 or 3 kinds of questions, and he says, and then at the end of it, this manic display, he just says,
"Oh my God.
Right, you've got it. You're hired."
To rapturous applause and everyone's.
No, I don't think anyone knew what to do.
That's what he was hoping. Supervet was gonna. Is it like a kind of Baptist preacher? Like you're stand up and walk.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. It was exactly like that.
Throw away your crutches.
Oh my god! And some
of
of the
establishment.
some of the- I
Become
just-
with me.
Just let me. This is some of the other quotes I've got here
Okay.
that he said. These a lot of them directed at the audience.
Are we just gonna get? Is this gonna be libel cases we're making?
No. He said, "We could pummel into the world a hope so bright that it inspires everybody."
Wow.
All stuff like
That's
this.
great. I
Time.
like this guy. I want to go
All
drinking
the
with him.
time.
It'd be fun.
And he was talking
How
about.
old is Supervet?
He's like 48.
Oh, so he's still got
pretty
a
young.
lot to do.
Unless you're an axe-wielding homicidal maniac, something must matter to you.
I like him. I like him. Has he done a TED talk? He
I
should do a
tell you
TED
what,
talk.
you should, Steve. You should go and see.
I'm gonna
him.
have to go watch Supervet
I
now,
found
aren't
it. I found it one of the most entertaining, strange,
It's like
and kind of like
listeners.
quite
Nick looks
inspiring
like he's having
talks
like
that I've ever seen. It was
you
amazing.
do seem like you've had a little like a spiritual awakening from
No, I
hearing.
haven't been spiritually awoken, but I tell you what, I was entertained.
Yeah,
I was begging for more. I was hoping he'd carry on.
standing ovation at the end.
Do you remember I went to Austria and I met a guy called Herbie.
You did some AFM,
I did.
Yeah.
I also met a guy called Herbie.
and Herbie was the musician, right?
He was a musician.
Yeah.
He's got this band
See, I
called.
listen when you talk.
I don't listen when you.
I
do.
know you don't.
Anyway, this guy, he's got a little band, a little project called Brian
Yeah.
Brain. So he sent me he sent us 2 CDs actually,
Right?
one for you and one for me.
Did he really send me one?
Yeah, I've got it over there. I'll give
I
it to
haven't
you.
got a
in minute.
CD player.
Well, you know, I'm
But
sure
thank,
that you
thank
can
you
work.
very much, Herbie.
But I thought it'd be nice to play out one of our podcasts
Oh, that's
with one
beautiful.
of his tunes. 'cause
Let's
it's
totally
quite
do
nice.
that. Yeah.
So at the end of this podcast, you'll hear some music. That'll be old Herbie.
So yes, well, I
And you
look
can
forward to
find
it.
him online. If you just search Brian Brain, you can find him and listen to his stuff.
So why
It's
is
an
he-
excellent
that's his-
album.
Why is he Brian Brain?
It's just a little.
That's
It's
his
his
name.
project.
Oh, that's what he's calling it.
Yeah, I mean, have you heard about musicians? They
I've
have
heard of
like
those things.
a band sometimes.
But-
And sometimes they call a band something different from like their names.
But Brian is the name of a person.
Brian Brain.
Yeah.
But it's just a cool name. Don't diss his name.
I'm not. I'm just saying. Okay, but if they
I
were called
like
like
it.
Radiohead, that makes sense, right? You know.
Well, Radiohead's a bit of a crap name, to be honest. I prefer Brian Brain.
All right. Well, let's go and listen to some Brian Brain then.
Well, I'll put some on at the end and it'll
Well,
fade
fine.
out. I'll have to ask his permission first.
Science Shed! We're in the Science Shed! Science Shed! We're in the Science Shed! Come on, Steve!
Bunsen.
Burner!
Dolly.
Machine!
Internal.
Combustion!
Why do we need
Steam!
Petri?
Dishes!
Oscar.
Space!
Isaac.
Newton!
Transplanting.
Science!
Nick,
Are
we've come to an end of another podcast.
we there already?
We're there already, but it's a little bit different. Normally, we just sign off on this bit, right? And we just say, oh, we hope they enjoyed it. But I think we need our listeners' help, Nick.
Do we?
We need to empower them to help us out a little bit.
Oh, yeah, they definitely need to help us.
Yeah, so one thing we need a bit of
If
help.
they like us.
If you like the Science Shed and you want to spread the joy to other people, do us a favor. So if you listen to the Science Shed through iTunes, give us a rating. So look, we don't care what it is; can be good or bad. But if you rate us,
No, it's got to be
no,
good.
they can be bad if they don't like it. But what that does is it like pushes us up in the like magic iTunes algorithms.
Oh,
So
yeah.
other people will kind of come across our podcast more likely because that's how they rank it. So if anyone's actually listening, it'd be good if you could do that for us. A 2017 gift to Nick and myself.
Is there a way that they can do it?
Yeah, so if you just go on iTunes, there's a little thing at the bottom, and you just have to say, like, click 1 to 5 stars, and you can write something. You don't have to write something; you can if you want.
What about for our Android users?
I'm not sure. I think it must be the same, but the majority of people listen via iTunes. So
Maybe we can leave instructions by tweet later on.
we'll leave instructions by tweet. But
And
that
you
would be
can-
fantastic.
And you can follow Steve at The Chemist.
No, not the chemist.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
at Steve the chemist.
Oh, and I'm at the Evans Lab.
And yeah, if you could do that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Please do that.
And then you'll get more of us.
And part of the reason is Steve's beard takes a lot of money to maintain.
It's incredibly expensive.
It's crappy.
Team
So
of people.
the more success
in-
he has,
you know
the
that-
more
exactly,
the beard
was gonna
can
grow.
be maintained.
You know, like the pit crew at like a Formula One thing where they have to change the wheels. That's pretty much what it's like.
It's like
my
you in the
personal
morning.
grooming.
You've
So I
got
just,
like a
sit
team of
back.
like 8 people
Exactly.
or more who come in. Great.
Exactly. So and I can introduce them on the Science Shed
Yeah.
if we get enough 5-star reviews.
Oh,
All right. See you later,
fantastic.
guys.
See you, everybody.
He suffers from hunger very extensively. This man who works so hard. Of course he need to eat. Everything. That is what makes food so expensive. He needs to work more and more. And if he works more, this job is well done. Then there will be no more work at Fame. And he suffers from hunger again. You are starving and you cannot work. Ergo, those who don't work really don't eat no bread. Try dry bread and drink some water. Follow the fool and you stay instead. Why don't you look behind the wall onto the wall's other side? There will be the money wanted. High price you can hide. It is the power of heaven and starving, such a marvel. Millions of millions, good luck, that's what keeps you alive. Try dry bread and drink some water. Follow the fool and you stay instead. Why don't you try some dry bread?